All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of Into the Lion's Den with your co-hosts, Dirty D
It's
and
it's
Christian
always
Griffith,
interesting.
brought to you proudly by Level Creative Studios and Pride Roofing and Construction. By the way, you forgot to put the lion snippet in the last video. I didn't recognize it. He's like, I already know I did that. Yeah, right. I have to tell you. All right. Anyways, let's get back on topic. So today we're going to be concluding our entrepreneurial adventures or endeavors series. We're going to be talking about lessons learned, advice for aspiring entrepreneurs, and a whole buttload of good stuff. All right. So JD, why don't you take us away, kind of prep us, and see where we want to go with this thing.
Absolutely. So we're just kind of wrapping up what we've talked about. Anything that we want to refocus, bring up, refocus. But this one is specifically for advice for aspiring entrepreneurs. So we're going to start off with what would you say in your time as being an entrepreneur? What would be the most important, and it could be a couple, most important lesson that you've learned so far, and how you would apply them daily to like an aspiring entrepreneur.
Okay. Um, I kind of have like an all-encompassing response. Um, I think that it's important to state, which we've talked about it a number of different times on the different podcast episodes, but um, you are never at any point, and I mean, obviously, I'm only at 6 years. I guess I could probably confirm this with people at 50 or 60 years down the road, But at any point, you're never going to feel like you have it all together, nor are you going to feel like you know everything about your business. Regardless of how much of a seasoned expert you've become in your field, there's never going to be that comfortable position where you feel like you have it all together. And it's a really uncomfortable thought for just about everybody. People like control. People like to control as much of their lives as they can. Nobody is drawn to chaos. I mean, and if you are, you know who you are, and you're probably not watching this episode. uh, but regardless, and I think, and the reason I said it's kind of an all encompassing thought or learning lesson or whatever you want to call it, is because a lot of people, like they say that the graveyard is the most expensive um, plot of land on the planet. And the reason it is because that's where a lot of incredible ideas go to die. Because a lot of people never actually put their thoughts or their ambitions into actual play. They don't put action behind it. It was a dream the whole time. And the reason is they feel like they don't have it all together enough to start. They feel like they don't have the best business plan. They feel like they don't have the right experience. They're not the right guy because they haven't, trained next to some guru for however long they feel like they need to. There's always these reasons why they haven't started. And ultimately, at the end of the day, those inventions, those ideas, those businesses, they end up in the graveyard and have gone nowhere, right? I think it's important to state it out loud. You're never going to have that, right? So if you have a reason and you are passionate about it and you can't think about anything else, you obsess over this idea, and you have that confidence in yourself, regardless of if you feel like, you know, you're the right person or whatever those fleeting thoughts are, or those, the naysayer in the back of your head, just do it. Right? Just do it, because you're never actually going to feel like you have it all together. You're just not. Right? And then if you do feel that way, it might be a hard road for you because you're uncoachable, untrainable, and unrealistic.
I think that in that vein of you're never going to be ready, that's always been one of my stumbling blocks of like, I've said it in a previous episode of like, I'm looking, whenever I start things, I'm always in the position of wanting to be year 10 or like, I need all of the gear, or I need all of the things, or I need all of the, um, everything that it needs to look like I've been doing in a while. I want to be a professional on day one, or like the end goal on day one. And I think that has been a huge stumbling block for me in some of the things that I've done of like, you got to grow it as you go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've said this a few times, the analogy, but like you have to come to the understanding that you are birthing something new, right? You may not be heaving on the hospital bed and in, in incredible pain, but you're creating something that didn't exist before. When you create something that didn't exist before, it's the most basic and rudimentary small organism that it's ever going to be in its existence when it's first made. You're not going to be a professional. You're not going to know the learning lessons. You're not going to know what levels you have to climb, what milestones you intend to cross. Everything's going to change from that point forward. And a lot of that is just like in human growth. It's like the environment has to have its effect on you before you can actually adapt to the environment. Now, you can have great business models, you can have great strategies, you can have all the ideas, you can put as much time into the R&D portion of, building your business plan as you want to. But at a certain point, it's like, shit or get off the pot, dude. Just frankly, right?
Absolutely. And I think that one of the other lessons I've learned, and you've heard every person who's doing what we're doing right now, as far as talking about entrepreneur, we're not the first people to say this, but surround yourself with people that push you.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're doing right now, as far as podcasting, or this is one of my big dreams of being in this position of, I would like to have 4 or 5 of these that I help produce, and like, not that I'm necessarily in, but I help produce and design and all those kind of things. This is one of my dreams, what we're doing right now, and one of the things that I've drove for. But I've always been exactly what we talked about. I've always had that stumbling block of, if I'm going to do this, I need to be doing it completely, or like I need to be doing it all the time, and like it doesn't matter how I pay my bills or whatever it may be, all the reasons I've given myself not to push for it. And I mean, if you're watching the podcast, you notice that there are changes from last week to this week of like just small things. As we invest more into this, we make those changes, and I've never been comfortable with that part. I want to be, like I said, at year 10. So because I've helped surround myself with people, it's been easier for me, other people that want different things. And not all your friends need to be entrepreneurs. I'm not going to tell you that. But I'm pushed by people that care. And I've surrounded myself with people that are striving to be better and push me to be better all the time. So finding that group of people, and that falls back into like what we talked about with like a mentor or someone you like, if you hate the term mentor or whatever it is, finding someone that pushes you and drives you to be better, that knows you're capable of more and pushes you towards it, even if it's uncomfortable, because it's uncomfortable pushing forward. And I think that that's a huge learning lesson that a lot of young or aspiring entrepreneurs struggle with is, I'm uncomfortable with this. They spend so time looking before they leap that you psych yourself out and walk away because you're like, I'll fail. I'll never do this. This is my 4th iteration of doing this. And I know that I'm, co-hosting and things like that, but I found a way to wrap it back around to what I want to do. And, I help design the room and do some of those things. And with my, background in audio engineering, it's just because I've surrounded myself with people now that push me to be more, it's made those things that I'm aspiring for more attainable because I have the right voices in my ear. Even, sometimes there's people that even when you're being told not to, like you've expressed of like, this is a huge risk and you still went for it. Sometimes you have to push through that. And there's always when you really care about something, you'll push through it.
Well, and the risk, well, everybody knows the bigger the risk, the higher the reward. Right? Everybody knows that. Not everybody applies it. Gamblers do. Right? But that kind of, there was a thought that I had. I don't mean to, I'm going to circle back to surrounding yourself with the right people, but I'll circle back to that, but I want to go back to something that you said. We've mentioned the term burning the boats, lots of different times, and I think that's one of most, like, I know a lot of people who have stepped foot into entrepreneurialism, whether that was something small and already built for them, like a multi-level marketing type of business, or whether that was a real business that was their own product, whether that was an invention they tried to get off the ground, whether that was an application they tried to build, so on and so forth, right? I know a lot of people who stepped in, but they stepped in very cautiously, right? When you give yourself an exit strategy, you've already failed, right? If you don't look at it like it's survive or die and there's no other option, right? Humans by nature will find a way. If it means enough to you, just like survival means everything to everybody, right? If it means enough to you where it's like, I will survive in this or I will die, you'll find a way. You will adapt, right? You may be, you may have shortcomings in certain areas. You may have, weaknesses that you just don't know how to round off by yourself. But that leads me straight back into what you were talking about, which is surrounding yourself with the right people. If you're in a room, um, if you're in a room with people, human nature is to essentially start to mold to each other, right? So my grandma used to say, "You're never gonna fly with the eagles if you're always if you're always what was it? You're never gonna fly with the eagles if you're always surrounding yourself with shitbirds." Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Little baby grandma. We call her baby grandma because she's like, 5'1", 90 pounds, but she could wield it, right? And she's scary woman when she got mangry and stuff. But anyway, she used to say stuff like that, and it makes a lot of sense. You start to evolve and adapt to the rooms that you're in, and as an entrepreneur, you create the room, but you're also responsible to fill the room. And when you fill the room, you need to find people who are better than you, and you have to be comfortable with that, right? I know for certain I am less experienced or less capable or skilled in any individual trade or section or area of our team than the person that's running that team. I know for certain I've put a person in each one of those places that's better than me at what they do, and I do that on purpose. It's like it's not. I'm not uncomfortable with having people who are smarter than me or people who are better than me. I try to keep that humility with myself and understand my job is to, at first you are the AR guy, you are the salesman, you are the systems guy, you are all of these things all in one. And as you expand and you make you start to gain market share and you have the ability to do it, you need to bring experts into those areas, and you can't be insecure about that, right? We've seen that happen inside of this business about what insecurity will do, right? And I don't want to go on the wrong tangent and talk negatively and things like that. We've had personnel, and also my ex-business partner had a air of that of his own. He, these people want to close off every doorway that there is and try to pretend they're better than everybody at everything because they think they need this persona. You don't need that persona. You need a head coach's mentality. It's like find the best players on the team. The head coach rarely ever was a MVP player. Rarely ever. They're generally a guy who played the game but loved the process and loved the strategy and loved the planning. It doesn't have to be that you're the executor all the time. You just have to make sure you got the right person in the right place. And you can't be insecure about it. Otherwise, you're dead in the water.
I think that that's really common of like, especially as you grow, there's a tendency, and statistics show this, of the longer an entrepreneur holds on to everything and wants to control every piece, the more likely they are to fail.
Mm-hmm. And it's a hard thing though. Like that transition for me was really, really, really difficult. Handing responsibilities and ownership, like ownership of certain areas of your business to somebody else is really difficult because if it's you, you can control it, right? And I just talked about that at the beginning. People don't like chaos by nature. It's a difficult thing to manage because there's nothing that you can do. It's like it's affecting you, right? So if you find the right, you have to recruit the right people, so on and so forth. But control, like you have to get to a certain point where you let your aspirations and your vision and your growth and where you want to go decide what's the best way that I can say that? Sorry, I need to kind of I got a little over the top with that, but it's like at a certain point, you are going to be limited. That's what I'm trying to get to. So you're only going to find, the rock climbers, they call it, and I learned this through some Navy SEAL literature that I used to read, just incessantly. It's just for some reason that was the thing that I love. But they Navy SEALs do all these specialized individual trainings, and one that was really important for all of them is their rock climbing. They learn how to climb sheer rock faces and do stuff like that. But the rock climber's mentality is stay in your 6 foot world. And what that means is the average human male's wingspan is 6 feet from tip of your finger to tip of your finger, right? You can only control what's inside of here. And that's as far as your reach is ever going to be. But you want to circle the globe, you put your hand in somebody else's hand, right? Hands around the world, like 1980s thing, right? But it's the
Yeah,
truth. It's like you want your reach to grow, you have to bring people into your 6 foot world, and you got to connect and you got to bind together. And you always have to realize you're only as strong as the weakest link, right? So you got to be slow, slow to hire, quick to fire. That's a difficult thing for a lot of entrepreneurs to understand. You spend all this time dedicating into people, and if it turns out the wrong person, stop wasting your time. It's not personal, it's business, and this business is your livelihood. And if you care about it the same way I was talking about, where it's like survive or die, this person's gonna lead you to a cliff. They're gonna take your business over a cliff and end it for you. That's not a good thing to have. If they're the wrong
no,
person, take them out, right? It's not because they're a bad person. Maybe it is because they're a bad person. We found a few of those. But if they're just not the right fit, they're just not the right fit, and you have to have the balls to fuck. Sorry, about went a little bit a little bit into the pirate side of my life, but you have to have the balls to just tell them this is not working anymore. Move on. I need to fill this gap. My reach is not big enough, and with you in it, it's only getting smaller.
absolutely. And I think that you tend to cling to people, and that is another learning lesson that I've had to make of like sometimes you're clinging to a person and you don't realize, but if again, you've surrounded yourself with a group of people and everyone else is saying, "Hey, this is what's actually going on outside of your, you know, if we're using that same analogy of, binding yourself together outside of your 6 foot world, you're, they could be 4 links down the chain and you don't really have that much interaction. Or maybe you do, but their weakness and you're not hearing it and you're not seeing it. But your other pieces of your chain, because you surrounded yourself with great people, are saying, hey, there's a problem here we need to address. Even if they're, Gary Vee says this all the time. What do I do if my highest performer is the biggest toxin in my organization? Get rid of him. That's a hard call to make. And everyone will, if you are going to be an entrepreneur, at some point you will have to take an extremely high performer or a vital member of your team, however that looks for what you're doing, and remove them. And that's excruciating.
Well, it's excruciating. It's difficult because you've connected with this person. You're emotionally tied. Everybody who watches these videos, if they work anywhere, which they do, everybody has to pay their bills in this inflated economy that we have, right? It's like you get very used to the people. They become friends and then they become family, regardless of if it's black and white. Like keep business, business, home, home. It doesn't happen that way. And anybody who tells you that they're perfect at that is a fucking liar, right? You become enmeshed with each other, so it's really difficult to pull those people out of there. But at the end of the day, you have to understand it's like if you just keep putting up with this incompetence or this toxicity or whatever it is, you're giving yourself the ability to just be mediocre, right? Mediocrity doesn't win championships,
No.
right? Just showing up and doing the bare minimum doesn't even win the game, right? This in business, it's not like a participation trophy type of a mentality. It's like eat or be eaten. The competition doesn't care that you have a bleeding heart, right? They don't care that you love this person so much you're willing to put up with their bullshit, right? They're going to eat you alive, right?
Absolutely. Because there's nothing is new under the sun. I think that's been a thing that I've thought for a really long time. It's based on a whole slew of books. But there's nothing new under the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be someone else who wants to do what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And just showing up isn't enough.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really hard thing to get into your teams, but then also into yourself of driving forward.
Yeah.
And then, on this same like specific advice and then also most important lessons, we've kind of covered both in this. Another one of those is, wow, I had a whole thought.
I have another thought.
Go ahead.
While you're trying to dig it up from the trenches. It's important to trust your instincts. Yeah. Give it the good old-fashioned smell test in every scenario. Walks like a duck. Quacks like a duck.
It's probably a duck.
It's probably a duck, right? If you're in tune with your business and you care about it the way that I care about this business, and you feel it, or that smell test doesn't, it sounds a little, or it smells a little sour, right? Trust it. You're always right. In every circumstance where I've avoided my instincts, it's came to bite me back tenfold somewhere between 6 months to 2 years down the road. Always. There has never been a time where if I trust in my instinct that I was making the wrong choice. There's never been a time.
Yeah, I can definitely see how, having been in this role and doing these things of, I'm naturally a little bit more empath. Is if we're talking about the psychology thing, I fall very heavily into the empath part of the 4 personality types. Mm-hmm. So E is one of my big ones, and I haven't always listened to that, and that was a big thing I had to learn. Of like, sometimes your first judge is correct. Not always. Mm-hmm. But I have found that once I've established a relationship with someone or established a understanding with person working or whatever, pretty quick. Mm-hmm. You know pretty quick if they're going to be a good fit to be alongside you. Not necessarily for their character of like, this is no slight on anyone's character or anything like that, but there's just times when you know that business-wise, because that's what this ultimately is we're talking about. Business-wise, there's times when it's like, I know that you are not the right fit. Mm-hmm. I hate to say it. I like having you around, right. But I know that you're not the right fit. And that's part of the reason like you don't work with family is because it's hard to make that call, even more so when you have family.
People have tried to argue that to like the ends of the earth as like the kind of compatibility. They're like, there's no two people that are incompatible. It's just how much effort are both parties willing to give in order to achieve whatever the thing is that they're trying to do. That's bullshit. There is incompatible people. There are people who do not want to be on the train with you. They want to be on their own train. They just unfortunately can't do it on their own right now, right? So they're just dealing with the things that you give. That in and of itself, a complacent, like, yes sir, no sir, I'll do whatever you ask, but there's no like depth behind it. That's just as toxic as the guy who's in the corner being a real piece of shit, right? Because they're not actually investing and they're not getting any traction. They're not taking people with them. The idea inside a business is to create exponential growth. You don't get exponential growth unless you get buy-in from the fundamental numbers.
Correct. And that was the thought that I had earlier of the buy-in of a trap that a lot of young entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs you'll fall into, and even saying it, you'll make this mistake, is we've used the 75% principle for us of you are never, ever going to get someone to buy into the same level as you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay.
Unless you chip out points. And is that necessary at all times? Protect yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Of you're never going to get that buy-in out of everybody. It's never going to be a thing that happens naturally. You just want to get the level of buyout you can from that person. And that looks different for everybody, but that 75% principle of I know what you're capable of because I've worked alongside you long enough. So here's what I know you're capable of. If I can get 75% out of you 100% of the time, I know that you are doing what I ask you to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's been a really important lesson I've had to learn of I care deeply.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to succeed and I want to push us forward and I want all of those things. Not everyone is going to care the way I do.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone. Let's face it, sometimes it's just a job. And that's okay because if they show up and they do their work and they work hard and they're consistent for you, they have different things that motivate them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's your job as a leader to know that.
When I was talking about compatibility, what I mean to kind of piggyback what you just said is like there are some people who are not aligned.
Yeah, they're running perpendicular to your vision.
Right. Right. And that person that's only here for the time being just so they can utilize the organization for what they're utilizing it for. They're not always bad, but they're not somebody you want to invest time into at the same time. Training, sure. Driving expectations, sure, that type of stuff. But adding responsibility and allowing them to be a person holding one of the the paintbrushes to put onto the canvas of the vision that you're painting, that's not the right person, right? So you got to make sure people are aligned at whatever area of life that they are, right? If somebody just wants to have a steady job that they never want to leave because it funds what they do outside of here, I'm great with that.
Absolutely.
Because that can be aligned, right? That's easy. Right? If somebody wants to take over the world and become the head executive at the organization, and it's this one that they want to spend time in, that's aligned. But if somebody's here just to pass time so that they can get to the next thing and they're taking something from you and not giving something back to the organization, that's misaligned.
Absolutely.
That's incompatible.
That's incompatible at that point. And I definitely, that's a good caveat to what I was saying. Because there will be people that work for you or just all they ever want to be inside of your business is an employee.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to manage. They're good at what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as work goes, that's all they want. And that is okay. Not everyone is management. Not everyone is that next level. It's not a drive for some people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
I think that that's a lesson. Also, the people that want to move up and be more and let's try, they'll tell you.
They will tell you.
And they'll show you.
They'll show you through their actions. They'll ask you questions. They'll get involved. They'll keep themselves present in front of you. That kind of stuff. But you also have to keep your eyes locked tight on those people for different reasons too, to make sure it's not ulterior motives.
Yeah.
Right? If somebody wants to progress through the ladder and they're willing to step on the heads of the other people to get there, that's also not something you want in your business. Get rid of the snakes. Get rid of the snakes in your garden. We're feeling the effects of having snakes in our garden from this year. It's rough. It's no fun.
It's been really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll happen multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing of like sometimes a mask is convincing.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be able, but that new level, new devil
Mm-hmm.
is another one that you and I specifically talk about a lot of. There's always going to be new problems.
Mm-hmm.
There's always going to be new things that happen. Even if you're dealing with the same old things,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes year one stuff pops up in year 6.
Mm-hmm.
And you just kind of like, we solved this.
Yeah. I think too, a lot of the times when people progress forward, they they don't allow some of the negatives and then the pains to really, like, they just kind of ignore it and move on and try to throw it into the back of their mind until you forget about it. But you have to remember, like, you have to create some form of, like, you have to have those scars to remind you, right? When I was, I've talked in this podcast about my battles with alcohol, right? And how I'm actually, what is today? I am 21 days away from 4 years sober,
Nice.
right? But in those alcohol classes and stuff, you're battling these demons, and they talk about recidivism, right? And this recidivism is like the risk or the likelihood of somebody relapsing, right? And they talk about that in the jail system, or whatever you call it, prison
Prison system.
systems and whatever. It's like, what's their likelihood of them repeating this offense once they're gone? And the recidivism rates are incredibly, they increase dramatically based off of what the actions and the intentions are of the person once they leave whatever the program it is.
Okay.
Which is why they encourage being with groups, getting with like-minded people, having counselors, having evasive action plans, which is like written plans where if you know you're going down the wrong road, you open that up and you execute your plan and that type of stuff. But recidivism is also something that can be applied to the business. You learn a lesson, you need to remember that lesson, because if it pops pops its ugly head back up, even if it's 5 years down the road, but you've forgotten the lesson that you learned, you're bound to repeat it, right? History will repeat itself if you don't do something about it, right? And so I guess what I'm getting at there is, like, don't live inside the pains, but don't forget the pains, right? Don't let yourself, you fool me once, shame on me. Or shame on you. Said that backwards. Fool me once, shame on you. But fool me twice, that's shame on me. I did not learn. So learn from your errors, but don't let them, like, just because they were small the first time and there are things that you got past quickly because you're flexible and you're moldable and you're whatever, like, you're motivated. Don't let yourself repeat those things because you forgot. Don't become complacent. Get the right groups of people, have the evasive action plans, write down your protocols, embed the things that you learn into your systems. Do it religiously so that you can avoid all those pitfalls. Make it so common and well understood that this is a lesson we will never have to learn again, and the organization will be better. You will be better.
Absolutely. From that whole context of, lessons and other things, is there any other, like, major lesson, something that really stands out that we potentially haven't touched on, of, like, are there any other groups of people or anything that we can flag in here? Yeah.
I'm sorry. I've been trying to get in there for a second, but I want to see if we can provide context to, like, a solopreneur, someone such as myself.
A what?
A solopreneur, like, literally where they do not need to have a
Oh,
team.
a solopreneur. Is that a real word?
It is.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, so solopreneur. But
notice the
that's
confusion on my face when you said it. I was like, I've never heard that.
Yeah. So it's a concept, and it's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have my wife help me with some finances, but that's it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have a team of people going at it and doing all my stuff that I do. I am just here. I have all the equipment. I do it all myself, and I go home.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. It just a context that I know a lot of other people do as well. Not just creative work. It's social influencers. It's social media managers. It's very similar stuff, sure, but
well,
just one person team.
I guess I would fight back on this solopreneur thing. Like, I think that's a choice, right? Because if you wanted to, you could build an expansive organization.
Yeah.
Could you not?
Yeah, I could.
Right.
Yeah,
But
100%.
that's not what you want.
No.
Right. Or at least right now.
Not right now.
Right. So I don't really know if that's, I don't know how to speak to that because well, okay, here's how you speak to it. It's like when you're forecasting, when you're building your business, know what level you want to get to. I think that's pretty useful. It's like, for me, I don't ever intend to build the organization to be a competitor of Cinemark. I don't need to run a $1 billion roofing company. It's not my intention. It's not my aspiration. I do want to have multiple units. I want to be able to use those multiple units to build other revenue streams with different entrepreneurial ideas that I have. But I don't have any intention of going against the Titan, right? I do have every intention of modeling every smart process that I can get out of that Titan, right? I want to take that information and apply it on our smaller scale. But yeah, I think that is probably the only good way I can answer that when it comes to it's like know what you want to do. Do you want to just find a comfortable way to pay your bills and have the least amount of stresses? That's fully doable as an entrepreneur. You just have to know how much, you know, how much do I need to bring in and how much can I control where I can keep this level of my life without the additional stress, right?
Absolutely. And I think I can speak a little bit to we're specifically, the solo entrepreneur. You don't ever really intend to have a team around you. Say you're a flipper or you're a um, flipper creative. So a lot of creatives work solo for a really long time.
Mhm.
You know, creator in social media aspects. There's a lot of people running really unique, really cool shops out of where they're designing products that they're selling, shipping, packaging all themselves from their homes.
Mhm.
And they're carrying on those things. And maybe that's what an entrepreneur looks like of like, I determine this.
Mhm.
I know what I need to do to be happy, pay my bills, and push this dream forward.
Mhm.
So if you're one of those people of like, I'm not looking for a team of people. Or maybe you are looking for a team of people and you're just not to that point yet. Um, Solo can be incredibly liberating. I know there's a number of photographers that have made whole careers on being exclusively on their own
Mhm.
and have gone on to do incredibly lucrative brand deals and things like that. So, knowing what your dream looks like,
Mhm.
we're speaking specifically from the standpoint of working with a team because we've always operated inside of teams. I
Mhm.
think that, even though wrestling's a very individual sport, you were still a team.
Mhm.
And I'm a huge drama nerd. So, playing into that context, that's a team in and of itself. I know people look at that differently, but speaking very specifically from theater of I work inside of a team incredibly well because we all feed off of each other. So I can only speak to working inside of a team because that would also be my goal, and is my goal as an entrepreneur. I want to have a team. I want to have a team of people that are pushing towards my vision that I've set.
Mhm.
Maybe the vision you've set is I want to get in my van and I want to hike for 3 hours into the Alaskan backwoods and photograph the Northern Lights. That's a solo activity,
Mhm.
potentially. Understanding your vision.
Mhm.
It doesn't need to fit everybody else's. If that's what your dream is and like your goal and that's what you're driving towards as an entrepreneur of I want to take these photos and sell them or whatever it may look like for you, that is equally as valid as working inside of a team. It's not, don't let anyone define what your vision should look like. What, uh, you know, speaking specifically to what we're talking about of there's a tendency to let outside forces define your vision
Mhm.
of, like you said, we're not trying to be the $1 billion business, but there will be people from the outside that say that that's the only thing that you're supposed to be. Like, that's what your vision's supposed to be that, rocket away company, you're the next Elon Musk or whatever, they want to say.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't have to be your dream.
Mm-hmm.
Your dream can be any. I mean, one of the people I respect the most, his dream was to shoot a video once a week on YouTube on his property in the middle of Michigan and live out there on the budget that he has from that, buy tools and those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
He's happy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's incredibly powerful.
Well, I think that's probably the driving force behind this is just learn how to define your success. What is success to you? As an entrepreneur, you should be able to confidently say what success looks like to you. Because if you don't have that, then you're never going to be able to gauge what's necessary to get to that success point. Kind of just throwing darts in the dark, hoping that you hit the board, right? If that's what if success looks like to you is having the absolute most amount of freedom, not necessarily the long amount of numbers in a bank account or whatever it is. That's success to somebody. But if it's just simply, I get to spend the most amount of time that I get complete control over my time, and you get to that point, you've achieved your success. And you're right when you talk about the driving forces, the outside forces. Thing is, when you get into business, people act differently than you would have expected. Right? Elon Musk actually put out this post. It was like a Twitter post before he owned Twitter. And he was talking about if anybody really actually cared to support their friends and family members who are starting businesses, they would throw instead of like a gender reveal party or like a home, or whatever, like your
Birthday party or
no, like your new house, and you want people to go in and see it, like home. What's that called?
homewarming?
Housewarming.
Housewarming. There it is.
Anyways, people do these types of things for these not so aspirational type of things. But when somebody has an aspiration, you should throw a party for them to drive the traffic towards that person, so that you and of your, like, in your decisions and how you're actually helping them move along. People don't do that. It's really, really disheartening when you first start. Whether it be friends or close friends or family members or just the people you think you can count on, it's fucking crickets when you first start. Everybody is like, holy shit, this guy is about to ruin his life, or I can't believe he's doing that, or it's never going to happen, or whatever, right? Yeah. The people you think, I mean, I'm not saying that my mom did this or whatever. I'm just saying, like, there are people that they are not going to believe in you. They're just not, right? And you have to understand that you're walking into very choppy, very hard to navigate waters. Just be okay with it, because at a certain point, all that comes back around, and all those people come back around, and they're very happy for you. But at the beginning, man, are people like, they're different. They are not what you expect.
I mean, you see it even with, like, inside, as an entrepreneur starting something new. We're starting something new with this podcast. Mm-hmm. And we've seen that even here. Even though we have all these people, we've had a bunch of people bought in or whatever it may be for the company, we've struggled with even some of the, like, I don't understand why that's important. People aren't always going to get it.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
You do you, boo-boo. Yeah. You want to start that business, you start that business, right? But you have to start that business with the intentions of, I am not giving myself an out. I'm not going to let my thoughts of myself be persuaded by the opinions of others. I care about this. I will do this. I can't do this. And that's it.
Absolutely. And then as we're talking about this, from when we started, has your definition of success changed over time?
Absolutely. Absolutely. My definition of success in my younger years, I talked about this, I think in the last episode maybe, or one before it, was self-mastery. I was on this quest to be perfect in all facets of my life. I wanted to round off every square edge that I possibly could have.
Okay.
Do you want me to close it for a second?
I didn't detach it, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so my definition of success, 10, 15 years ago, was self-mastery. I wanted to just become excellent in every form and fashion of my life. Like I said, it just seemed like something I needed to do, and I wasn't really sure why. As I went further along, my definition of success was formulated by kind of the way the world looked at success. It was how many zeros in your bank account, right? And I gave up a lot of myself in that quest for, you know, I guess climbing ladders and getting the bigger paychecks and getting the bigger offices and that kind of stuff. It was I just thought that's what it was, but that just isn't. That isn't me. For some people, that is. Some people, that's what drives them. That's what success is you're a billionaire or you're a millionaire or you're this or whatever, right? For me, success is specifically if I see, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a leader, I am a brother, I'm a son. If I am at all times of my life supporting all of the people that I care about, whether it's monetary or just emotionally or whatever, if I'm always doing my best to support people, I feel like that is in and of itself a success. Additionally, I feel like I've really made it in business when this place runs without me. Those two things simultaneously. If it runs without me and I am always supporting the people around me and building people up, that's all I really need in my life.
Yeah, and I think that at one time, exactly what you're talking about, of when I left. I mean, if we go back to like high school, college, of the things that were driving me, of like I was the guy that was gonna go to Nashville and be a singer or whatever it was, and then I had a lot of people surround me, specifically, just external forces, or like you're not that level of talent. And then I changed my, now for good in the end, but I changed my dreams.
Yeah.
And I became a very tech centric person. I removed myself from in front and put myself behind. I became more of a support role. Because I let the external voices, and that's the power of the external voices, define what my success was. And that success was owning the nice cars. For me, of like, I've always wanted to, and I joke about it now, of like, I would love to be the next, like, have the next garage like Jay Leno.
Yeah.
It's not even really a goal anymore. At one time in my life, that was one of my biggest goals. Of I want a warehouse with a 80 or 90 really cool, to me, cars, and those kind of things. But my goals have changed. It's not that that's invalid anymore, and there's a part of me that will always appreciate those particular goals in my life, but they've changed the things that I think are more true to myself. Of I'm out of the time period of my life where the goal is just making it to the next day. There was a time period where that was the case. Yeah. And if that's where you're at, that's okay. It takes time to get out of that place, but sometimes just making it to the next day is all you need to do. To where now my goals are doing more of the things I love, which is the creative stuff, being in front of cameras, being in front of people, speaking more, doing like what we're doing here. This is, one of my big goals, and that has changed. And, because personal goals are part of this, because you have to have goals for yourself personally outside of just your business, because your business goals can't be the only thing that defines you. Don't let any, eggs in one basket, too many eggs in one basket. Yeah. If all you are is a husband, or all you are is a father, or all you are, those things can change. We live in a very crazy world. Any of that stuff can change. we should be those things and support all of those things because that's part of our goal, but it shouldn't be all we are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a thing that I've been learning and pushing forward into is these are my goals here, and how do these goals here help me become this? And my definition of success is wildly different from what it was when I was 25.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to be the next Rick Rubin. That was legitimately one of my goals when I was in my early 20s.
Who's Rick Rubin?
Rick Rubin is a music producer in LA. He's recorded a ton of he's been behind a lot of the albums that you've heard. Of course, right now I'm drawing a blank on all of them, but if I listed it off, you would know a lot of the albums. Rick Rubin's a huge producer. He's just he's a genius when it comes to music production and design, as far as albums and the way they're recorded and all those kind of things. He's a genius when it comes to those sort of things.
Mm-hmm.
He's produced some of the most incredible albums of all time.
Yeah.
And that was a goal for a really long time. I wanted to go into that. And then I worked in the music industry for a time.
Yeah.
And I hated it.
Yeah.
With a passion of 1,000 suns, I hated it.
Yeah.
You know, some people say, oh, you're just in a bad studio or whatever it may be. But legitimately, I got into it and I realized I do this because it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
And this takes all the joy out of it.
I can feel that. I feel that one deep. I got into the fitness world because it was a passion, right? And being there and being part of the race and part of the, I don't want to pretend that all gyms have predatory sales tactics, and I'm referring to that because I know we talked about the predatory contracts with the artists and the things that they take away from these artists and how that kind of stuff, and how it lost your mojo for it.
Absolutely.
That's what lost my mojo for fitness in general. I worked there and I focused on it so much that I was like, I never even took time to exercise myself, and that was my passion. I loved everything to do with the fitness world and sports and training and physiology and anatomy. And it just took all the wind out of my sails for that while being invested into that industry, right? So things change.
Absolutely. And sometimes your passion isn't your profession.
Mm-hmm. I learned that. I can speak to that right now. I don't have like a direct affinity for roofing. I'm not driving around drooling, staring at roofs, right? But I understand. I appreciate the hell out of construction. I think that construction is just, frankly, just cool as hell. Like, how did you build that, right? And understanding it broken down piece by piece, and the logistics and all the things that went into it, and not just the logistics of building it, but like the contracts and the communications and the amount of stuff that's driven into it. I'm fascinated by the world of construction, but it was never my passion. I really like being here, and I really like that it gives me an opportunity to create a revenue stream, and I don't want to leave, right? But it's not fitness, it's not wrestling, it's not any of my original passions. It just is what we're here to do now.
Yeah, and that's how I feel about audio.
Yeah.
That was my goal and what I drove for, and I was going to have my own studio and things like that. And I just realized that while I'm passionate about music and I love it to death, making it my life, as far as my lifeblood, the way I pay my bills and things like that, made me hate it.
Yep.
There's a period of my life I didn't listen to music at all after I left the music industry. Because I hated it so much. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to lose that love of, there's amazing artists and creators and all of those kind of things that are out there producing incredible things. And I wanted to still be able to love that. And I couldn't when I was working inside of it. But I realized that by stepping back, the other part of the passion, the technology and being involved in systems and those type of things, drove me towards what the reason I'm good at is because with systems is you're designing the way like this goes to this goes to this, and that's how everything works in audio.
Mhm.
The input of our voice into the diaphragm in here, it goes into the cable, which it converts it to electrical signal and sends it down. I loved the understanding of how that worked down, so I was able to apply that to what now is my profession. But I still have my entrepreneur goals outside of that that I pursue away from my profession.
Mm-hmm.
And that's driving towards incredible opportunities inside of I love this. I didn't realize I would love this until I started doing it.
Mm.
There was part of me that was like, podcasting's dumb for a really long time.
Yeah.
And then I started listening to podcasts and was like, I kind of love this.
Mm-hmm.
And being involved in like all the things that it scratches as far as creative and everything else, I've realized how powerful the draw to this is and how much I want to keep doing it.
Well, let's keep building it, buddy.
Absolutely.
You got any more bullet points you want to go into? I get a little bit wordy when it comes to this kind of stuff. Honestly, if anybody that watches these shows really wants to wants to expand on any of these topics, shoot us a message. I'll give you a call. I mean, that's kind of what that's the intention. So you were mentioning about like not everybody even in our office is bought into the podcast. There's more to this podcast than just creating content, right? It's a way for us to just kind of hone in on our trades. It's a way for us to all sharpen our swords and together, people with like-minded or who are like-minded. That's my call to everybody. If you really want to like talk through some of this stuff, I'll talk for days. I don't want to keep secrets. I mean, I want to give you secrets. I want you to avoid the pitfalls that I've fallen into, because some of them have really, really, really messed me up, right? I'm still here. I'm still kicking, but it's like they took years off your life with these errors that can be avoided. We as entrepreneurs, we as people aspiring to be entrepreneurs, people who just want to be good in leadership, we should band together. We should take all of our ideas and all of our things and put it together, and we just create better populations of people. We should all work together. I think that's why I brought up the Elon Musk thing before. It's like, I'm not going to hold back, right? If you're better than me, you're better than me. But that's going to drive me to get just as good as you, right? We should create our competition, healthy competition. We shouldn't, we should do our best to get rid of the shit people that are out there, because there's a lot of people who really shouldn't be doing. I can tell you from my experience what we're doing. There's a lot of shit birds in my industry, but I'm going to fly with the eagles. And if you're an eagle, let's fly.
Absolutely. And I think that speaking to that we look at the social, we look at all the comments, Into the Lion's Den is not just simply me and Christian talking. We want to have, if you have questions or very specific things, or like, man, they didn't spend very much time on this particular topic, but I really liked listening to them talk about it, tell us that. Because Christian and I can talk for days. And we will very willingly answer any questions that you may have, even if it seems strange. We want to answer those questions and provide context, and we can do it here, or like he said, if you're appealing to, you want to have a direct conversation, we can do those type of things too. But we look at all of the comments and things like that, and we would love to expand on any ideas that you run across that you'd love to hear us talk about and continue forward with this.
You want to close her down? Well, we've already given the call. I think, what is it called? Is it called smelting? And like, is that what it's called when you put the iron in the flame and you mold the?
Are you
forging.
talking about when you're actually pouring it into a form, or when you're hammering it out?
Either or.
So when you're hammering it out, it's forging.
Okay, and then it's smelting if you're pouring it in.
If you're going like crucible, melting down the material and going into a form.
Okay.
Yeah.
So forge. Let's forage.
Forge.
Let's forge together. Into the Lion's Den is a play on our organization, obviously, but we're in here in the Lion's Den all the time trying to discuss life, trying to get better. We want you involved. I think we've made that point pretty clear. If there's, yeah, like you said, if there's any questions that you have, we're more than happy to be engaged. But I feel like life would be better if everybody really just stepped outside of themselves, put their pride aside, and started talking a little bit about how they got to where they are, share their experiences with people who aren't there yet, and vice versa. Let's all build together. I think that's the overarching goal with this whole thing is let's just build a better world by working together and trying, being passionate about something. Passionate about something.
If people were more passionate about something, I feel like the world would be a lot better.
People would be a lot happier. Tell you what, you just sitting around staring at your phones, wishing you were somebody else. If you're tired of that shit, give me a call. All right, but that's it for today's episode. We're going to transfer out of this into a brand new topic next week. We're going to be bringing in special guests next week, and we're going to change the mojo, change the flow. We're going to get a little bit creative on the next upcoming weeks. We hope you tune in. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, guys.
Peace. Thank you all for tuning into this episode of Into the Lion's Den. We appreciate your time, and we hope that you've gathered enough ammunition to go out, fight the good fight, and become a better person every single day. Please like and subscribe, engage in our content, ask us some questions. We'd love to tailor fit the next episode to you.